Hello, everyone, and welcome to the virtual FAQ session for the PhD program in Human Sexuality Studies at Widener University. I'm Dr. Brooke Wells. I'm the PhD program director and an associate professor in the Center for Human Sexuality Studies.
Hi, everyone. I'm LeConey. I'm an assistant director in the Office of Graduate Studies and Extended Learning, and I am also the admissions liaison for the Center for Human Sexuality Studies programs. Can this program be done fully online?
This is a great question. We have a really wide blend of courses, and some courses are done entirely online, some synchronously where you are together in virtual space, and some asynchronously, but we do have several classes that are done in person on campus in a weekend format. Classes are typically Saturday from 10 to 7 and Sunday from 9 to 6. And the courses, most of them, have 2 weekends on campus for each course. So in terms of the second question, how often do I need to come to campus? It will vary a little bit from semester to semester, depending on how many of your classes are online and how many of your classes are on campus.
What is the difference between the MED in Human Sexuality Studies and the PhD program?
This is a great question and one that I get often. Our PhD program is unique in that it is an MED plus program. And what that means is that every student in the PhD program gets their MED on the way to getting their PhD. And so the courses that the PhD students take and that the MED students take are one and the same for some portion of the PhD program. And those courses in the MED program are very much focused on practice. So whether that practice is policy related, education related, or sex therapy related. The PhD courses, on the other hand, are focused on research, on theory, evaluation, and development, on conducting and evaluating empirical research, and on really thinking about the connections between practice and research in all of those areas.
Speaking of research, what research is being done by students and faculty in the program?
This is one of my favorite questions to answer because our students and faculty are doing amazing research across an incredible spectrum of topics and populations. We have students who are working on LGBT competencies in sexuality therapy and in therapy more broadly. We have faculty who are working on connections between substance use and sexuality. We've recently conducted a fairly large-scale project to develop and evaluate an online toolkit related to comprehensive sexual health education for adults. And that is just a smattering of some of our research. We have a really wide range of research. Many of our faculty have bios on the website where you can go and get a sense of what they're interested in. And you could also look at their publications and get a sense of what they're publishing and what kind of audiences they're speaking to.
Is there an internship or field component to the PhD program?
There is, and the internship field component of the PhD is in the MED portion of the program. So as you're learning those practice-related skills, whether they're education, policy, or sex therapy, there is a field component of varying hours of length for each of those tracks. Some are 2 semesters, some are 1, depending on what program, some are more than that. And that's really where you get a chance to go out into the world and put those practice skills out into the world. And so that is earlier on in the program, and we often try and gear students towards an area of research or an area of practice that will connect to their research in some way.
There are a number of tracks for the PhD program. What are the differences between the sex education, sex therapy, public policy, and nonprofit management tracks?
Again, this is a similar answer in terms of the distinction between the MED and the PhD portion of the programs. In the MED portion, where all those practice-related skills are centered, the sex education track learns things like theories of learning, of development, how to develop and evaluate curriculum. Sex therapy students are getting much more of the practice-oriented skills to conduct sex therapy, whether that be couples or families or individuals around different topics. And the public policy and nonprofit management tracks do all of our sort of typical foundations courses and then gear more of their practice-oriented work to those fields. Once you're in the PhD courses, the tracks really don't matter as much because everyone in the program is focused on research, and that research often touches and is about all of those areas or has implications for all of those areas. So students often have practice and are engaged in typically at least part-time, if not full-time work in one of those areas while they're in the PhD program. But for the PhD program itself, everyone is focused on research.
Will this degree, particularly the sex therapy track, prepare me to be a licensed therapist?
Excellent question. For the MED program for the sex therapy track, you must come in with a licensable degree already. So the sex therapy courses will prepare you to do sex therapy, but you need to either come in with a licensed degree or be enrolled in one of our dual degree programs, whether that's with social work or with the psychology program with their PsyD.
What types of careers do students go into upon completion of this degree program?
This is also one of my favorite questions because our students, our alumni, are doing great things out in the world. We have a lot of folks who do a really nice blend of work. So often that is adjuncting, consulting, and having some sort of private practice, often for the therapy students, the therapy alumni. Doing director level work at different sorts of organizations, LGBT center, community health centers. And we increasingly have a large number of students who are alumni who are in student services at universities, colleges, where they're working in sexual health programming, sexual violence prevention, and various sorts of administrative roles in higher education.
We touched on this a little bit when we discussed the licensable degree component, but are there opportunities to dual enroll with another Widener Degree Program?
Yes, students can dual enroll with another degree, much like with our MED program where students can do an MED PsyD with the psychology department or an MED MSW or an MED MPA. Students can also do that in the PhD program. So they could get an MPA along the way. They could, we do have some students do the PsyD and the PhD. Those are a bit of different degrees and they're both terminal degrees within those fields. So we've had a couple of people do that, but more commonly students are enrolled with the social work program as well. We tend to have more students in that dual enrollment.
So we all know that financing is a big component to making a decision about graduate studies. So are there graduate assistantships or scholarships available for the PhD program?
This is a really important question, and we do have a handful of graduate assistantships on campus that pay both a stipend as well as some tuition remission. Students can find scholarships in a variety of places. We've had students come in on Fulbright scholarships and various other programs. Some students come in with some sort of tuition remission via their jobs or places of employment. But unfortunately, we are not a funded program, so students often also take out loans or explore various other forms of financial aid.
Thank you so much for joining us for this video. We hope you found it informative and helpful as you consider Widener University for your graduate studies. Again, my name is LeConey, and I am the admissions liaison for the Center for Human Sexuality Studies. My contact information is listed here on the slide. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or concerns. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. My contact information is also here. Please send me an email if you have any questions.